Our film begins in the past, about 500 years ago, in the city of Hangzhou, when a young fisherman decides to act heroically and saves a white snake from death. But this snake actually turns out to be our heroine, Blanca, a beautiful girl with supernatural powers. We return to the present day, and to return the favor, Blanca vows to turn the world upside down until she finds this young man. However, her sister Verda thinks this whole thing is a waste of time and that she is chasing a mirage. She tries to convince her that humans have short lives and tells her it is a shame to waste their immortal lives for a nobody. But Blanca is stubborn. All she cares about is seeing him just once to thank him, and she promises her sister that this will be her final farewell to the human world. We move to the festival atmosphere, and suddenly Blanca's hairpin falls. A young man named Xu Xuan picks it up and returns it to her. Here, a romantic moment unfolds on the broken bridge. The moment their eyes meet, chemistry happens, as if fate is bringing them together again. Just as they are about to start a conversation, Lady Wang interrupts them, breaking the moment because her son is sick and has been bitten by a snake. Here we learn that this young man is a doctor named Xu. Dr. Xu quickly examines the boy and tells her, "Don't worry, it's just a bit of indigestion." He tries to regain his charisma with Blanca, who pretends the meeting was a coincidence. But her sister Verda stands in her way like a thorn in her side. She starts making snide remarks that there were 100 other ways to go. We learn that Xu lives with his late sister's husband and that his life is a constant grind at work. Every time he tries to speak a few words to Blanca, someone snatches him away with a new disaster needing treatment, to the point where the girls get bored of waiting. Later, we see a planned coincidence on a boat where the girls meet Xu again. Blanca plays it cool, but a loud boatman ruins the moment, trying to kidnap the doctor for his sick wife. Here, Blanca reaches her limit. She uses her magic with a clever move, pushing the boatman away without him noticing, and takes the doctor for a peaceful tour on the Sunset Lake. There, Xu takes out his flute and plays a melody that captures Blanca's heart because it is the same ancient melody she knows. The next morning, Xu walks with his brother-in-law, the Honorable Li, who works as the city sheriff. Li is paranoid and suspicious of the girls, thinking they are scammers out to swindle them for some cash. Xu laughs and tells him, "Man, swindle who? I haven't got a penny to my name. I owe everyone and their mother, and I'm living on borrowed time." Here, logic prevails, and Li is convinced that no sane thief would rob a broke man. However, Li is shocked to learn they are meeting the girls at the House of Abundant Joy, a very expensive place, and they are in debt to Master Zhao, the owner of the place, for 300 silver pieces. They decide to act tough and sneak in quietly, but of course, they get caught by Master Zhao, who humiliates them in front of the crowd and the girls. At that moment, Blanca steps in boldly and throws her golden hairpin to Master Zhao to pay off her future husband's debts. This act of gallantry makes Xu fall in love with her even more, and Li immediately agrees to the marriage, as long as the bride is wealthy and pays the debts. Afterward, the wedding takes place, and they live the best days of their lives. Blanca tries to convince Verda to live with them and forget the world of magic. But Verda believes her sister has sold out for a man and that this is a wrong decision for which she will pay a high price. As the days pass, a strange plague strikes the city and people collapse in the streets. Xu discovers that the city's doctors are greedy, exploiting the crisis to raise medicine prices while the poor die because they have no money. Here, Blanca suggests the idea that will change everything. Why don't we open our own pharmacy and treat people fairly? But Xu was discouraged, saying, "The spirit is willing, but the purse is empty. Where will we get the funding?" Next, we go on a journey to find the truth. Blanca and Verda go down to the city to uncover the origin of this epidemic, and the detective work begins. Verda makes a very clever observation. This plague is moving in a straight line from west to east, as if drawn with a ruler. She suspects this isn't natural and that someone is intentionally poisoning the people in the city. To settle all doubts, they go to inspect the water wells. They smell a terrible odor coming from them, meaning the well has just been poisoned. In another location at a different well, they spot an old man standing there, selling pills of unknown origin, advertising that they cure this disease. The poison and the cure in the same place. Blanca suspects the man as she passes him, feeling that something fishy is going on. Therefore, they continue their way to a third well and find it poisoned in the same way. Here, Verda connects the dots and becomes certain that this traveling old man is the cause of all this misery, selling illusions to people and swindling them out of their money. The next morning, the world turns upside down at the old man's shop. People are standing in lines to buy the medicine, unaware that he is the one who poisoned them, profiteering from people's pain in broad daylight. Blanca watches this play out, her blood boiling, and she is about to lose her temper and use her magic to stop him. But Verta catches her hand and reminds her of the promise. No magic, no superpowers. You sit back, and I'll handle this. Indeed, Blanca goes to create a distraction and draw the old man's attention, warning him that he must stop his shady business immediately. At that moment, Verta steps in and does her part, snatching the herbs and all the money he has with a sleight of hand that would make any thief envious. We then go to Dr. Shu, and Blanca gives him the loot they brought. Shu is very surprised by the appearance of this herb, but he thanks her for standing by him. However, the shock comes when he tells her that even with this money, they are still short 100 silver ingots to open the pharmacy, just when things were looking up. But since Verta never gives up and is sharp as a tack, she decides to solve the money crisis in her own way. Her eyes fall on the judge who has amassed all this wealth, so she transforms into a green snake and sneaks into his office stealthily. She grabs everything precious and valuable, a quick, clean job. Before leaving, she drops a bag of herbs from that old beggar they met earlier. The next morning, Dr. Shu fulfills his dream and opens the pharmacy with this tainted money. Of course, Blanca isn't happy with the situation, and her conscience pricks her. She tries to get a word from her sister that this will be the last theft, but Verta plays dumb and gives no promises. Finally, they settle on a name for the pharmacy, calling it the Hall of Protection, a grand name to hide the troubles behind it. As soon as he hears the name, a light bulb goes off in Shu's head, and he gets a sudden inspiration. He immediately remembers the location of the magical herb that will save the people. But the problem is, it's located on a very high cliff. Because of this, Blanca insists on going with him, because the journey is treacherous and too dangerous for one person alone. Unfortunately, while they are there, Shu slips as he tries to pick the herb and falls from the mountain. At that moment, Blanca has no other choice. She is forced to use her magic to save him. Before we continue, I think you forgot to hit the like button. Press like now, my friend, and subscribe now. And activate the notification bell to receive the latest videos. Flying with him in the air before he touches the ground. Shu is shocked, unable to believe his eyes. We're flying, guys! But Blanca quickly fixes the situation, deceiving him by convincing him that the mountain gods saved him and lifted him to the seventh heaven because he is a good and kind man. And he falls for it hook, line, and sinker. We see Shu swearing a great oath that he will use this mountain herb for good and to save people's lives. Blanca stands beside him, her eyes full of love, seeing nothing in the world but him. Love is truly in the air. We move to the judge, who is turning the world upside down, wanting his stolen money back. He grabs Sheriff Lee by the neck and tells him, "Deal with this and bring me that thief from under the earth." But the case is tangled and complicated because Lee is lost. He doesn't know how the thief even entered. There isn't a needle's hole indicating their location, as if they vanished into thin air. At that time, a monk named Fahai arrives in the city to rescue Sheriff Lee and solve the mystery. The sheriff begins to explain the situation to him, saying, "Your Holiness, there is no sign of breaking or entering. This thief must be dealing with spirits." The monk takes out his prayer beads and performs some magical moves until he summons his golden spiritual animal. This beast begins sniffing around the place like a police dog to catch any thread leading them to the thief. So that Lee doesn't look bad or inferior to the beast, he pretends to understand and joins in the sniffing and searching as well. Suddenly, the golden beast catches a bag of herbs labeled the Lord of Midnight. Here, the monk uses his brain and concludes that this isn't a normal human theft. It's the work of demons, specifically a rat demon. To follow the trail, he asks Lee to scour the city and search for any old man nicknamed by that name. We then go to Dr. Shu's pharmacy. Lee arrives with his squad, happy that his friend's business is booming and the customers are lining up. But at the same time, he brought the men with him to lie in wait, hoping this lord might suddenly appear so they can cuff him. On the other hand, the villainous old man swears 100 oaths to take revenge on the two sisters for what they did to him. Not only that, he decides to frame them for the crime, forging evidence at the crime scene to implicate them. Truly devilish work. Eventually, Lee gives up, unable to reach the thief who vanished like salt in water. He decides to play a new game and writes a letter to the first opera troupe in the city of Hangzhou. What is Lee planning? After a while, the reply arrives and Lee is over the moon. He runs to break the news to Dr. Shu and the girls, telling them he has arranged everything and agreed with the fat, precious Jade Opera Workshop, specifically to celebrate the pharmacy's success. He really spared no expense. But as soon as Blanca hears the name, her heart sinks and her features change. and she isn't comfortable with this idea at all. On the day of the performance, everyone was sitting there celebrating, except for Blanca, who was sitting on pins and needles, unable to stand it. Berta notices her sister's tension and asks, "What's wrong, girl? Why the long face?" Blanca surprises her, saying that the actress playing the role of the Red Maid isn't human at all. She is a demon Blanca has known for 500 years. After the party ends, the cunning old man, who is himself the rat demon, takes advantage of the opportunity and corners the naive Dr. Shu. He begins working on him, saying in a low voice, "Be careful, doctor. I see a dark aura around your house, and there are demonic spirits living with you under one roof." To complete the trick, he hands him a talisman and says, "This is for protection." Of course, Dr. Shu swallows the bait as usual and takes it from him. As soon as Dr. Shu returns home, disaster strikes. The booby-trap talisman he has begins to work immediately, affecting Blanca, who feels a fire burning in her body as if her soul is being withdrawn. Shu runs to her, frantic and his heart nearly stopping from fear, not understanding what happened to his wife so suddenly. At that moment, Verta catches on and realizes that this cursed paper is the reason. To save the situation, Blanca puts on an act, distracting her husband and pretending to be dizzy so he doesn't focus. Verta takes advantage of the moment and with a quick magical move behind his back, she destroys the talisman and burns it to get rid of its evil before it exposes them. Verta learns that Shu took the talisman from the old man, so she goes crazy and goes to find the old man to hunt him down and take her revenge. At that same time, the monk and his golden spiritual beast appear and catch the rat demon. Verta quickly hides so no one sees her. The monk tries to destroy the old man, but the rat demon begins to plead with him, saying he was forced into this. The monk refuses to listen at all, saying that demons aren't supposed to be here in the first place. To save himself, the rat demon snitches on Verta, saying she is in the same place. Verta tries to defend herself, but of course the monk is much stronger than her. She takes advantage of his preoccupation with arresting the rat demon and manages to bite him before slipping away and escaping. The monk manages to imprison the rat demon after returning it to its natural form. Because of what the monk saw, that evil spirits fill Hangzhou, he decides he must eradicate them all and not leave a single one. On the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, the monk makes a cunning move and places a spell on the wine so it only affects demons. At that time, Verta and Blanca are celebrating with Li because he won the race, and they drink the cursed wine. As soon as Blanca drinks, she starts to feel dizzy and hallucinates, asking to leave and go home immediately. On her way, the effect of the spell increases so much that she can't keep her balance and falls into a pool of water. We then return to Dr. Shu, who returns home to check on his sick wife, but he gets a shock when he finds the house empty and silent. He hears a faint cry in the distance, so he runs toward the river where the voice was calling his name. Suddenly, from under the water, Blanca emerges in her true form as a giant white snake. At the horror of the sight, Dr. Shu's nerves give out. He collapses and faints on the spot. Blanca is terrified for him and immediately returns to her human form. She tries to wake him up every which way, but it's no use. To save him before he's gone, she carries him and runs to the Red Maid to find a solution to this disaster. The Red Maid shocks her, saying that the marriage of a human to a spirit is against nature and wasn't supposed to happen in the first place. However, she tells her there is still a slim hope to save her husband. She must go to Mount Kun, a terrifying place, and bring the fairy herb from there. To make the task even harder, she brings out an incense burner and warns her that she must return before the fire in it goes out. If she is even a second late, she won't be able to return home again. She hands her a sword to protect herself and says a magic spell that sends her straight to the mountain. Blanca continues her journey until she reaches Mount Kun. There she finds the fairy herb, but no joy is complete. The herb itself attacks her. Fortunately, she manages to control it. As she is about to leave, the Kun brothers appear as guardians of the place. They see that she is a demon who has defiled their mountain, so they rain blows upon her. However, she manages to escape them by the skin of her teeth. We return to the Red Maid, who uses the herb to treat Dr. Shu, but she informs us that he still has a few days of coma ahead before he wakes up and becomes fine. Finally, Shu wakes up from the coma and immediately tells Blanca about everything he saw and the horror he lived through. But Blanca plays dumb and tries to convince him, brainwashing him, that all of this was just a nightmare and a bad dream, nothing more. Despite this, Shu insists on his words and swears he saw the giant snake for real. Because of this state, Shu remains at home, refusing to go out at all for fear of the snake. Since this situation cannot continue, Blanca and Verta plan a solution to rid him of this phobia. Blanca asks Shu to man up and take her to the place where he allegedly saw the snake. He takes her to the pool, hesitant every step of the way. There, Verta plays her game and uses her magic to conjure a fake snake, starting to scare Zhu and Li, who start running as if they are in a marathon. Before the snake can devour Shu, Verta steps in and with a cinematic move, splits the snake in two with her sword. Because of this play acting, Shu's complex is gone, and he returns to normal. The next morning, Li keeps talking and raving about Verta's bravery, deciding that he must find her a catch of a husband. But the problem is that the lady thinks quite highly of herself, and honestly, no one is good enough for her. At that moment, the monk drops in on them. When he hears about the giant snake that died, he asks to see Verta himself. The guy was dressed up in fancy noble clothes, not monk robes, to the point where Verta didn't even realize who he was until her eyes fell on the bite mark on his hand. She recognizes him and understands it's an ambush, so she turns tail and runs immediately before he can get hold of her. This escape confirms to the monk that she is indeed the wanted demonic snake. After the monk connects the events and learns that Blanca's sister also got dizzy from the wine, he becomes certain they are a pack of demons. Shu goes to tell his wife about the sermon he heard and informs her that the monk swore not to leave until he sees her. There, the confrontation happens, and the monk reveals Blanca's truth. He uses his power to bind and control her to the point where her strength collapses, and she transforms into a giant snake in front of her husband. Good heavens, look at that. Instead of being afraid of her, he was afraid for her, and he went to challenge the monk, snatching his golden bowl. What kind of love makes someone sell the world to buy a snake, guys? Focus now, because what's coming is a high-stakes game with no room for compromise. Blanca manages to escape while injured. After all the secrets are out and the cards are on the table, Verta flies to find her sister. At that time, Shu remembers the Jade Workshop, so he runs to them to help him. There, the owner of the workshop agrees to help him, but she tells him, "Take care, what you are asking for will cost you your life." This is because the only way to save Blanca is for him to distract the monk's beast. She gives him a flute and tells him, "You must play with your soul, not just your breath." The goal is to lure the beast and trap it inside the bowl. He must play at the highest volume to stop the attack, even if he dies doing it, as long as his wife lives. Shu begins to play the flute with all his might, determined to see it through to the end. On the other hand, Verta manages to reach her injured sister and save her before it's too late. We return to Shu, who intelligently manages to lure the beast and trap it inside the golden bowl. As soon as he finishes, he flies to search for his wife. But unfortunately, he meets one of the townspeople who tells him to leave immediately because people are coming for him, intending him harm for hiding demons in his house. Shu takes the golden bowl and flies to Jinshan Temple. There he stands before the monk and begins pleading with him to leave his wife alone. But the monk proves to be heartless, saying these demons have no place among us and must be crushed. Because he is cunning, he decides to imprison Shu and use him as bait to lure the demons and finish them off in one blow. In another place, Verta and Blanca return to the village, frantic about Shu. Li comes out to them, showing his true colors as a real man, and warns them that everyone has turned against them and wants to finish them off. He tells them, "You are still like family to me, and I can't betray you." Finally, he tells them Shu's location and informs them that he is imprisoned in Jinshan Temple. Verta smells a rat and feels that this whole thing is a big trap. Therefore, she asks them to forget Shu entirely and take him out of their accounts, because she believes he sold Blanca out to the monk for a cheap price. However, Li defends his brother-in-law desperately, assuring them that Shu adores Blanca and would never intend to hurt her. But the bitter truth is, they won't be able to stand in the monk's way because he is miles stronger than them. Because of what happened, Blanca goes to pull out her old hair ribbon and remembers the oath she swore long ago, that she would never use magic again, no matter what. Blanca sighs helplessly, and suddenly we learn the surprise that will turn the tables. Blanca is pregnant. At that time, Li and Verta move quickly to rescue Shu from his cell before it's too late. Verta attacks Shu. She has finally had enough of him, and she confronts him about the betrayal he committed when he sold Blanca out, even though she cherished and loved him. But Shu assures her that he would never touch a hair on his beloved wife's head. Suddenly, the lightning bolt strikes, and he learns that Blanca is pregnant. Therefore, they all decide to move to meet her immediately. But unfortunately, the monk Fahai spots them and flies after them with his terrifying beast to crush them. Finally, Shu reunites with his wife Blanca, and promises her that their coming son will live in safety and peace. But no joy lasts. Suddenly, the monk Fahai and his beast appear to ruin it for them. He begins a lecture on ethics, that humans and demons cannot live together, and that it's against nature. But Verta doesn't keep quiet. She rebukes him for his cruelty and assures him that her sister is innocent and has never hurt anyone. Here the monk plays with Shu's mind, saying, "Wake up, son, you are enchanted by her false beauty," and reminds him of the horror he lived through when he saw her before as a giant snake. When Blanca sees the look of fear in her lover's eyes, she decides with utter sorrow to return to her original form and withdraw from his life entirely, to leave. Blanca here chose to break her own heart and leave, so she wouldn't see that look again. But this monk turned out to be a devil himself and knew how to strike the right chord. Shu runs after her like a madman, reminding her of the promises between them and that they would stay together forever. He says words that hit the mark, melting everyone's hearts except, of course, the monk, who has a heart of stone. In a rare moment of courage, Shu reaches out his hand and touches his wife while she is in the form of the giant snake, without a shred of fear. But of course, this romance doesn't sit well with the monk Fahai, so he moves immediately to attack them both and end the story. A fierce battle breaks out, but unfortunately, Fahai manages to control the situation and completely subdue Blanca's demonic power with his golden bow. In this decisive moment, Shu decides to play his last card and plays his flute with all his strength. This playing works like magic, sending the beast and the monk flying from their place. But unfortunately, the price was very high. The price was Shu's own life. The hero falls to the ground, taking his final breaths. Blanca runs to him, collapsing in tears, trying to save him before he's gone. But the monk Fahai turned out to be stubborn and doesn't accept defeat easily. He brings out all his power and strikes a final blow to finish them off. But by divine intervention, the baby still in Blanca's womb intervenes and creates a protective shield that deflects the attack from his mother. Here, the monk is stunned when he sees the mark of the human incarnation star and understands immediately that Blanca is pregnant with a very special child. At that moment, Verta intervenes with the speed of lightning, snatches her sister Blanca, and escapes from the place before things get any worse. After the dust settles, the monk assures Lee that Shu is still alive and can be saved, even though he exhausted all his energy to save his wife. Lee takes him running to the temple to treat him. After a period of time has passed, we see Verta and Blanca raising the newborn in peace. In a moving scene at the Lantern Festival, Blanca takes her son and goes to visit the temple, hoping to catch a glimpse of the spirit of her lover who sacrificed his life for them. Because Verta is sharp and doesn't miss a thing, she notices that Blanca has slipped away quickly, so she runs after her and catches up with her at the broken bridge. There she reassures her that she will stay by her side and be her support for the rest of her life. They promise each other that they must return to Storm Jinshin Temple and level it to the ground when they are ready. And with that, our story for today comes to an end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive the latest videos.